What up and welcome on back, y'all, to another Pokemon Pocket update video. For you all today, we got the meta report. That's right, we're going to be taking a look at like what's good and what's been going on, especially as we finish up, our tournament weekend. Without things like ranked mode or things like that, is perfect to see what are our top finishes, so that way you know what the best decks are to be playing. So let's go ahead and look at our top 8. And before we get into things, y'all, only about 6% of you who are watching are subscribed, so go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe, and click the notification bell button if you're enjoying the content, because we're trying to hit 10,000 subscribers by the end of the month. All right, with that out of the way, let's get into it. As you can see, we're pulling from all of these tournaments that occurred over the weekend. We're kind of like looking at these like bigger numbers here with over 500, 500, 500, 500, and basically 1800 plus, to kind of just bring out like what are the best decks to be playing right now. And our first 4, and you're already saying the first one, have all had top 4 finishes in these tournaments, which is really cool. So if you're looking for something consistent, let's talk about it. And one of the probably most consistent decks that we're starting to see right now, I mean, it's also been the case, is a Pikachu. Pikachu still has a strong popularity rate, and for good reason, as it's gotten tools throughout Mythical Island to make this feel good. I think one of the things that like really stand out here is that we're starting to see the decrease in the Zapdos EX, right? So before you're running Electrodes and then you're running 2 Zapdoses, but I think players are moving away from that because, you know, you have things out in the metagame like Tauros, which like feasts on Zapdos because it only has 130 HP and it gets one shot by Tauros with a Giovanni. So having other ways to deal with your non-EXs is super helpful here. Zep Strikers are also amazing to get past, also kind of like the wall or like the tanks of like the Dragons and high HP mons, to get to that backline, so that way they can't set up without taking damage. And then you have your Dedenne, which has gotten Patrician out of here, basically flipping your coin, paralyzing, and Electabuzz again attacking back. So this right now is kind of the pick that people like going, but there are builds that are running Galvantula, and you know, as we see with Arbok, having your opponent stay and it can't retreat is a very powerful effect that disrupts what they're trying to do, how they're trying to switch out, and it can usually cost them 2 points if you trap in an EX mon. Our other top contender here is Mewtwo EX, another fan favorite, and also kind of really does well. And then we're starting to see, before there was like Jinxes thrown in there, there was like Kangaskhan, there was like all these other mixes, but we're kind of really settling down on Mew EX as your 5th basic in here. Mythical Slab is really interesting that this has been going on and being put in here. Is kind of like made for like the psychic decks. You know, there's also a question of like, do I add in other types of things instead of Mythical Slab? But you know, just that draw power, looking for your non-basic EX mons like your stage 1s and Curly or your Gardevoirs to really pull that out has always been super helpful to make that even more consistent. And what's really interesting is that blue is now becoming a mainstay in this deck, primarily because Mewtwo EX is 150 damage, 150 health, excuse me, while Side Drive does 150, and Mew EX has been slotted to like take out opposing Mewtwo EXs because you only need 3 energies. However, you hit this blue, your Mewtwo EX actually survives because it only deals 140, and then you're able to clear the Mew EX in 1 hit. And so being able to survive another turn, not give up those 2 points, is really beneficial for this. Our mainstay that's coming back to like say I'm here is the Gyarados, not Gyarados, excuse me, is our Charizard. As you can see, I'm excited to talk about the other deck as well too. But Charizard's really powerful, and I think the reason why I brought up Gyarados is because Gyarados has had a surge in playability and popularity. Also, another deck that's like come of its own is Celebi, and Charizard deals with that. Gyarados' high HP does not mean anything to a Crimson Storm to the face, and then when you have things like Arcanine EX, which gets ramped up very quickly, you one-shot it with that. And you also have Mew EX on board here as well, because what's really nice about this deck is that Moltres EX can feed your your other fire mons, and then therefore your 1 energy per turn goes into turning your Mew EX online. So there's 2 ways that you're using your energy right now, and that also like lines you up beautifully into that. So while you are getting, you know, your Pikachus are getting up there, your Celebes, your Gyarados, like Charizard has an answer for all of them now, which is like kind of insane. So this has recently like reshot up. This used to be like one of the top 3 decks, and it fell off as we saw a new mythical island expansion came out. But now it's kind of reclaiming as the meta is settling as like, hey y'all, I'm still really strong and I can do really well. And by tweaking a few things, adding things in and taking things out, we're starting to see players being like, yeah, Charizard's the real deal. So what else are we seeing as our top 4 is Gyarados EX. Gyarados has risen in popularity and has kind of stayed. People have figured out like, hey, we have our Judgedon in here, let's build up. We have our Misty, let's power up that Magikarp, and let's take out the opponent's health with the Rough Skin ability from Judgedon and also the Water Shuriken ability from Greninja, and therefore we're wiping out everything that Gyarados now puts up because its main attack is 140, and a lot of times when you're discarding random energy, it is random, but sometimes it feels really bad for the opponent. If they were prepping up their 3 energy attacker, they have 2 energy, they're like, okay, cool, I can hit you back, and you discard their energy, and it's like instant lose. They can't do anything to you. So this deck has been really done well, and it's kind of settled into just these cards. While you have the advantage, as we just talked about previously, against Charizard, because obviously it's a fire deck, but Gyarados needs, it's really a matter of who gets online first, because that Charizard can clear Gyarados, but Gyarados can clear Moltres EX, Mew, and Arcanine all in one go as well too. So it's kind of a matter of who goes up first for this. This really builds up a lot of interesting matchups. It has a favorable matchup against Mewtwo, and then you're starting to fight in between when it comes to the Pikachu. So if you're looking for good consistent wins, this is the deck to do so. What's been really fun to see is fighting decks have been coming alive through Mythical Island. And again, before this set came out, you're just kind of like, well, my champ can do things. I feel like it's okay. You know, Sand Slash can do 2 energy for 70 damage. That's pretty good. And Mythical Island came in, and now we're talking business, y'all. So with this Aerodactyl EX, yes, the ability is great there. You know, being able to, you know, have their active Pokemon not evolve. However, 2 energy for 80 damage consistently, where you only need 1 fighting energy and then the colorless. You can run this in dual energy decks, but obviously we're focusing on just fighting here, is strong. Having this primate is also awesome because it allows you to put pressure early and wants you to go first, right? Like if you can go first, you have Mankey, you have Primate, you're dealing 50 right away. I think this Mankey with Focus Fist is like an interesting choice. I primarily probably would just do the regular like low kick one where I deal consistent damage. However, if you feel like you're a lucky person, go by all means, go for it. Dealing 50 with the basic Pokemon is pretty clean. And Hitmonlee, if I could, I probably would run 2 of this. I don't know, maybe I take out 1 X speed here, but the reason why I run 2 is because that Hitmonlee is just like, every deck has something that it wants to protect. Your Charizards you're taking out their Charmanders. For Mewtwo's, you're taking out their Ralts. For Gyarados, you're one-shotting the Magikarp, so Gyarados is not even coming online. You can start taking care of their Froakie. Their Pikachus, you take away their power performance, and you're also super effective on them as well too. So this can do well, and so your idea here is really just poking and chipping away at the opponent before they're able to set up. This next deck in Celebi EX has had its ups and downs. It's kind of one of the things where it was the hot new toy, and so everything like kind of like jumped real high, and then it had a poor performance because everyone was all in on just Celebi, and then it teetered off, and folks were kind of like, if we're a grass deck, why not run one of the best grass EX mons? And this is where Executor EX really shines. By having not only 1 energy where you can deal up to 80 damage, and you have 40 consistently every single time, is huge. That 160 health is a lot. And so when you're hitting Erica's on top of that, you can safely build up your Celebi EX on the backline. You can safely build up your Superior in the backline, because you're not just a tank, you are a damage dealer, and that also puts your opponents on the rope, and we love that. This deck is interesting because you're running 2 Ericas here and only 1 leaf, and I think the 1 leaf here kind of like has in mind that you have your Superior here, because what's one of the cool things is with that 1 energy that's on Executor, it actually counts as 2 energies. So if you hit him with a leaf, or if you hit him with an X speed, you actually can pivot your Executor EX out without a problem. Our next deck is coming up, y'all. Like, it's really cool. This is like Greninja fighting, and then you can like mix and match of like how you would like this to be. I think this is kind of like a catch-all of like a good stuff, like, or a good cards deck, right? So people love your Greninjas because you can poke at your back line. When one of your basics go down, you throw out your Marshadow, deal with that 100. You try to retreat it out, you have your Hitmonlee to also tackle it back. You have your Hitmonlee and your Greninja out, you're dealing 50 damage. Your Tauros is there to deal with EX mons. Your Farfetch is hitting folks for one energy for 40. So like, there's a lot of moving pieces, but it allows you to target bench Pokemon while maintaining flexibility in your energy usage depending on the matchups that you need. And that's where you have your finishers with Mew EX and your Tauros to kind of take care of those bigger hits while you're chipping it away at it with your Farfetches, your Greninjas, your Marshadows, and your Hitmonlees. I love decks that pivot. There's a lot more to think about as you're playing, knowing the right time to play your one Sabrina, knowing the one time to play your Giovanni. But when you get enough of these like underneath your belt, it leaves you feeling satisfied because you're like, big brain. And for our last deck for our roundup, we have our fighting variant. This is going solely all in on the fighting energy with the Hitmonlee. You have double Hitmonlees, double Marshadows, double Farfetch, 1 Mew, 1 Tauros. So like now, instead of having those Greninja lines where those takes up 6 slots, you're now able to add in more utility cards, as in adding extra Farfetches and like more Pokemon like Hitmonlee, so that way you can continue to attack that back line and put pressure on the front line, but you're also getting more usage of your trainer cards like Giovanni, like your Sabrina, being able to add in a potion. So this is more of that melding pot to have all those good cards in your hands and really play with your opponent's positioning and taking control over the board space. So Mythical Island, y'all, has breathe new life into Pokemon Pocket. We're starting to see more and more creative decks. We're seeing more diverse strategies and counterplay options, and it just kind of feels like this format is just building up into this big thing where you can play what you want because there are always these other pieces that you can do to kind of take out these decks, right? All these decks are contending for the #1 spot, whereas before we felt like the meta was solved. So let me know, what do you think about the decks that are on top? What do you think about the decks that are emerging? How do you feel about the decks that you're facing against? Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button for your weekly meta breakdowns and your deck highlights on the channel and your Pokemon news. So until next time, y'all, we'll catch y'all. Peace.